to Atlantic Ocean, upon me hills, to country, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday, it's focused on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information. Talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. This is Friday Night Debate. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Friday Night Debate, we're going to be debating some current national issues, starting with, as Liberians, are we worse off than 2 years ago? This is a debate that was started by the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Tuer. That's Mr. Samuel D. Tuer. He started that. We want to know if we are worse off. And I want us to discuss that. And this idea of always looking backward. This president from the last president, this president, who's better? Or who's this? Who's that? Or we should be more forward thinking. We're going to be talking about that. Also, the president is spending the Christmas in Foya. Probably, has a public official, probably for the first time, he's spending Christmas in Foya. What does that mean? And while in Foya, he's touring the controversial presidential villa or the Mano River Union Center for Development. Wherever the money comes from, we're going to be looking into that. And how do we approach development and national priorities? That will be our topic. Also, T5, or the deputy minister, the deputy speaker. We all know he was part of the CDC, T5, and the opposition, including Unity Party, used to call him Thief 5. Now he's on the Unity Party side. He called himself the independent free thinker supported Bwaka. The Thomas Fallow kind of politics. Is this where we're going now? And what is the risk if we follow that line of politics in Liberia, or what are the benefits? We also going to look into that and more. Let me welcome the neo-progressive commentator, Dr. Clarence Pearson. Welcome, Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure being on the show tonight. I want to say hi to Mr. Carter and Dr. Williams, and to our listening and viewing audience out there. I've been out for a while, and it's good to be back. And thank you for having me, Dennis.
Thank you. They say no matter how far the hand run, they will always land on the stomach. So you are back on the stomach. Let me welcome also Dr. George Y. Williams. He is the progenitor of the Agenda for Liberia's Transformation. Welcome, Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Dennis, and thanks to the panel, as always, talking and adding to the conversation around Liberia and where we want to see the country go, how we want to see it go, more importantly, is of interest to us. And so we're happy to be here, always happy to be here. Focus on Liberia has been a pivotal platform in helping to move Liberia forward. And so thank you for the invite. Thank you for always availing the platform to us, and we look forward to a very productive conversation this evening.
Thank you. Last and definitely not the least is our global and banking expert, also the host of FOL Marketplace, where we talk accounting, finance, economics, and everything in between, Mr. Gabriel M. Tabito Carter. Welcome, Mr. Carter.
Dennis, thank you for having me. It's good to be here. I think there's a lot to talk about, so I'm glad to be here to add my voice to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are debating current national issues. Let's start with the big question that Mr. Tua started. Has Liberians or has Liberia, is the country worse off today than it was 2-3 years ago? Dr. Pearson, I want you to take that first.
Thank you, Dennis. And it's a good question. I first should begin by saying that discussing Liberia when it comes to issue relative to statistics and data is kind of a difficult, because we do have a country that doesn't pay much attention to gathering information, statistical information, and disseminating that to the community, to the public. So is Liberia better off? It's difficult to say, but what I can use as a measure probably would be looking at the level of poverty. That I want to begin from there. Liberians showing an improved livelihood as compared to maybe the last 4 or 5 years. I would say no, and my measure would be my mobile money balances, my MoneyGram and Western Union balances is getting higher by the day. Even the number of requests I'm getting from back home, people are more stressed financially than ever before.
Let me stop you there because I'm on fire. When you say poverty, what is the poverty indicator?
So as I mentioned earlier, our country right now does not have a current strong statistics to show what the level of our poverty in our own country. But go by what we hear from indicators from outside of Liberia, where the poverty index is now saying Liberia is around I think the 10th first country in the world. All right, and I think the second or third in West Africa. So the data is not in favor of Liberia to show the change in the poverty index of our country. Moving from poverty, I want to talk about security. I've seen more. Someone would say because of the issue about social media, but I've seen more unexplained deaths in Liberia than I've seen over the past 4 years. Almost every day there is a display of death in our country. Some of the reason will be maybe the drug crisis. Other will be cases of reported bodies in the communities. I would like to see move to a more secure country. Right? I wouldn't want to cite the report from the State Department because that would be redundant.
Dr. Pearson, I want you to fix your audio there. First of all, Mark Borrow, say, Dr. Pearson, I miss you on the show. So welcome back. But fix that. Gabriel, I want to come to you because you are in economics, you are in finance, you are in banking. And the question for you, I'm going to put it on the screen. What specific indicators should Liberians use when comparing administrations? Because we hear this a lot. I was listening to people in the market and say, oh, we had time we used to, this market, they were buying from us. I remember when we came to power, there was this guy who sang a song, Ellen time we used to eat 2 times, this time we eating 3 times, and all that. What specific indicators should Liberia use when comparing presidents or administration? And if we don't have it, should we just keep quiet?
Dennis, thank you. That is a very interesting question that I don't think not only all of us on this platform should be answering, but something that the government or the next administration should be really looking into. And I do agree with Dr. Pearson. We don't have enough data, but the little that we have, we can make sense of it, right? You first, I want to piggyback on what Dr. Pearson said, right? The number of people who call you in terms of requesting money, all of us have family back home, right? You can gauge that from the number of requests you send back home, meaning people calling you to ask for money and how often they call you for you to send money back, right? Those are the basic, what I call low-hanging fruit for you to gauge. And doing that, you can have conversation with them, which is basically what any administration does. In the United States here, there's what I call the beige book, right? It surveys the 12 central banks of the country, every region. You know how to collect that survey? They just call businesses. Let's say if you have FOL, I will call. I sit at the central bank. Dennis, how is business going this month? How has it been for the last 3 months? What are you looking to purchase, right? What are some of the challenges you're having? I will collect that data, put it in a database, and I'll go on to the next business person, right? You do that, you survey. That's basically what we call first-hand survey. You're basically gathering data to assess the market. And that beige book comes out every 3 months, right? Business people like yourself, you know the decision you want to make. What you can do, you can go to that beige book and read it and then get an understanding of not just what you are thinking, but also what other businesses around the country are thinking, how other business owners around the country are thinking. So it kind of either validate your assessment of your own business and the economy, right? Or there are a lot of things you can take away from it in terms of gauging the economy. We do not have that in Liberia, right? The only report that comes out from the central bank every year is an annual report of basically that looks at the economy, right? So yes, there is not enough data to gauge that, right? Now, let's look at the other aspect of that, the low-hanging fruits that you and I can look at, such as you calling your relative or your relative calling you to get allowances, or however you want to call it, right? In addition to that, we can also look at the the government spending in the country. How much is the government spending in the country, right? What type of spending are they doing? Is this private sector engagement, or is this money that is coming directly from the government, or are they borrowing that, right? You can look at that and assess on it to gauge the economy. How much is the government? So, but in essence, without trying to be long-winded, there is not a lot of data points that we can look at to say for the last 3 months or over the last 6 months or a year, this is how the economy is doing. You have to wait for a year, right, to look at the central bank report and be able to gauge, different areas of the economy. But in terms of looking at it, from a quarter-to-quarter perspective, there is no such thing. Hopefully, I was able to answer that
both
question.
people can say anecdotal evidence. So let me go to Judge Dr. William. That are political comparison helpful for accountability, or do they distract from long-term planning? Oh, Boaka versus Weah versus Ellen. Are they helpful? But you can throw light on the anecdotal evidence. Can we rely on that? Or we shouldn't just be in the business of comparing if we have no research, we have no facts, we have no data, we should just be quiet.
No, I respectfully disagree with my colleagues who believe there aren't. First of all, let me say I agree that there aren't sufficient data collected, but we do have data that we work with on a daily. Yes, a lot of that data may be collated by international organizations to help us in terms of comparing where we are internationally or globally. But even at home, the likes of Mr. Carter made reference to the central bank, Ministry of Commerce. How many Liberians are even starting businesses? How many businesses have been registered? You go to LRA, how many Liberian organizations or individuals are applying for business registration and their tax IDs. All of those give a sense of where we are. Generally, I will say that macroeconomically, that I think we're better I'm not sure what perspective, like you say, maybe Mr. Twe, and maybe rightly so, maybe speaking from the political perspective. I think his whole pronouncement was highly based on, informed by his political mission. But Liberia is better macroeconomically. Inflation, for example, has been more or less brought under control over the last 2 years. As a matter of fact, the exchange rate is currently more stable now than it was when this government took over about a year or two ago. A lot of things. Energy has become better than it was a couple of years ago. Security, a little bit of.
And when you say better, what are you using as the yardstick? What's the litmus test?
Well,
What are the numbers?
energy supply. Let's use energy supply for example. And even if we use anecdotal examples, there's more. Well, first of all, the supply of electricity is more stable now than it was. Yeah, and that's expanding. There's a lot of work being done infrastructurally as far as roads and roads improvement is concerned. And so those are signs that suggest that things are getting better, but not holistically. Education, for one sense, is on the low. The Minister of Education came up with a pronouncement over the last month or so saying that overall performance hasn't been better, even though school feeding has been, which is a factor to help to facilitate and accelerate performance and learning outcomes. But school feeding is far removed from those major indicators that will accelerate
Dr.
education.
William, we can go specific, but the question I have for you is: are political comparisons helpful for accountability, or do they distract us from long-term planning?
Both situations are true. When we compare politically, how else do we? I mean, one of the ways we compare our economy, look at and examine our economy to ensure that it's performing, is to compare with other countries. Now, one of the things, unfortunately, that I've seen is that with the whole UP CDC, we can't get away from the two of us a comparison, is that we're stuck in a place. It's either CDC did it better, UP doing it, not doing it better. It is that wrangling. So yes, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. We should not be using the failed scenarios of the previous government as a benchmarks for what we're doing better. There are other governments. Why aren't we using, for example, the NDPL? Why aren't we using other regimes prior to that, the Tory Party? Why are we using the CDC? Because it's the most recent. And as far as the national conversation is concerned, those are the ones we can put hands on. That was the NDPL, the MPP rather. Why aren't we comparing those situations?
Or why are we comparing with Mana River Union countries? Exactly.
Why aren't we? Why are we going back to the CDC situation? What's going on in Sierra Leone, Guinea, Ivory Coast? You know, what is going on there that we can compare ourselves to? And I think a major distraction and short-sightedness of some of the contemporary officials of government that are in seat today, who know very little about what is better. For them, the only thing better they know they can compare it to is what the CDC didn't do. All right? Yeah. Many haven't had more global experience than they have today. And so that's the shortfall.
Before you come in, but your question I have for you is, why do Liberians often evaluate leaders based on the past rather than the future? I mean, like AI has taken over the whole world. So are you going to evaluate how we are using AI and how Bwaka are using AI now? Because AI was not there. So my question is, why do Liberians often evaluate leaders based on the past? Sometimes somebody tell you, oh, no more days Liberia. They tell me 40 years ago when there was no cell phone, no laptop. So why are we always going back?
So I know, as Dr. Pearson is supposed to come in, but I just wanted to,
Oh, are you supposed to come in? I decide.
okay. Uh, Let me just make a quick point here. I think I do have a lot of respect from what Dr. William does, and the point that he made. But I think that line of thinking is basically the same line of thinking that all of us have fell into, right? Meaning, just because the minimum is being done, we're okay with it, right? Like you talk about the stable electricity. I would agree with that. It's stable because I was in Liberia when it started being stable in February, right? Instead of you being out of, let's say, let me use your Liberian term here. When current go on your side, it would last about 8 hours to 12 hours. Instead of that, it was about 4 hours or 6 hours, right? So to that extent, that little bit of improvement of few hours, we consider it stability. But let's dive deep underneath what underpins that stability, right? The new head of LEC came in. He's importing power from Ivory Coast, right? The only difference between what he's doing and what the previous administration did is that the previous administration were owing money. The only thing he's doing, he's consistent in paying the money, right? And he's importing a lot, right? But the point that I'm trying to make here, still, we're inefficient in electricity, right? We're still undersupplied. We're not producing our own electricity. We're importing it.
And I like that point, Gabriel. Even if he's paying at what cost, is he robbing Peter to pay Paul?
Exactly. It's the same. It's the same. I think. What do you call it? Price per kilowatts. I think it's about 14 cents right now, or I think he's paying 9 cents per kilowatts, but he's charging the Liberian citizen, I think, about 14 cents per kilowatts. And you guys can keep being honest on that, right? Let me get to the other point here. The other point here is that there is continuation of the roads that are being built. Those projects were started, and this is why those projects were started by WIA, right? They've just escalated the completion. They just escalated it, right? I can go on and on. And the point that I'm trying to make here in totality is that we shouldn't look at the previous government, right, as a yardstick. Even if we're looking at that, imagine you being an A student in your class, and you are comparing yourself to a failing student, a D student that we all know is the least performing person in the class. But because you've scored a C, you say, I'm better than the D student, which of course you are. But technically, we've known you to be an A student. Is that a good measurement of your capability? Is that a good measurement of you being efficient in terms of being the best student in the class? No. What it has put you into a mindset to be less, to not demand more of yourself. And I think as a country, there's a lot of transformation that can happen if, and only if, we had the right right leader. Dennis, let me answer your question quickly. The other point here is, this comparison of current leadership to the past, administration, again, is something that I talked about earlier. It's basically, it gives you an easy way out to perform minimally, right? Because if you comparing yourself to the lowest performing administration, which is we know how horrible that administration was, right? This is an administration that came into power. They brag about being technocrats. These are the leftover of the technocrats that Ellen had within her administration. What have we accomplished so far? Yellow machine? Not yet. We've gotten the UN Security Council seat, but nothing we've gotten out of that, right? We passed the MCC scorecard. We have passed it as well. The only thing is the political, how they assess you politically in terms of, if I were to give you that capital, how efficient will you be able to deploy? That's the only reason why we did not get it. But this administration getting it is basically, we are score higher than they did, right? So we cannot compare administration to administration just because of political reason. We should look at it on the broad-based economic term, meaning how many people are we lifting out of poverty every month? How many jobs are we creating every month. How, what, once this administration is done, what will be their gold standard, meaning key policy item that they have done that anybody can come up here and say, the
Thank
Burka
you.
administration wasn't that well,
So,
wasn't that great,
so
but
Dennis,
they were
if
efficient in
Dennis,
terms of
I want to bring in
building
Dr.
roads,
Pearson.
right? So something that they
yeah,
can be known for.
Yeah.
I will I'll leave it on that.
Dr. Pearson, are political comparison helpful? Oh, I asked that question before, but let me say this. The way we evaluate leaders based on the past, I think that is putting us in a binary choice, right? So is it a better way to evaluate our leaders? What would a forward-thinking political culture would look like in Liberia? Or we always go to the previous leader, and then based on that we say, well, since this person was doing better, let's go to the other one. Oh, Papa, we're sorry. Oh, we are sorry. Talk to me about that.
Thank you, Dennis. Is my audio better?
Yeah.
All right. So look, let me respectfully, let me respectfully disagree with Dr. Williams when he's saying that we're much better off not understanding the importance of data when it comes to this kind of a conversation. Let me just say a couple of things. And before I go there, let me mention quick to you, Dennis. Yes, it is good to look behind because it is from your assessment of the information or the data or the achievement you've made in the past or the challenges you've had in the past that you can measure the successes are making in the future, how you plan towards the future. And it gives you a good measure of where you were and where you are and where you're headed to. Having said that, let me be very frank here. Since we heard that maybe Twitter said it took other party, well, the cases, how has that metrics changed with the publication from this other administration? Say President Burka came to office and he was able to establish by data that the level of youth employment is maybe vulnerable employment of the young people. That is
your audio is still bad. But what really I want you to look at
is it breaking up?
Yeah. Why can we, or when President Burka was coming together, he put out the arrest agenda. Okay, and based on the arrest agenda, we're going to do X, Y, Z. Why aren't we evaluating him on himself? But we are always going backwards, and this backward comparison is sometimes meaningless, especially in the absence of data.
Okay, then just quickly before I go off and come back on, there is something called baseline data. In order for you to even set indicators go for, you have to have a baseline data.
Mm-hmm.
And what the baseline data do for you is that the baseline data tell you where you're starting from, so you are able to look back and see how far you've gone. So until we have qualitative baseline data, we can speak to those kind of issues. Now, what we measure is my baseline data is what was my mobile money level of reliance in Liberia during George Weah administration, the mobile money reliance under President Burka. I can tell you, I've seen like over 30% increase in reliance on me when it comes to my mobile money assistance going to Liberia.
Let me stop you right? Let me stop you there, right? If that, how do you, that 30% increase, right? How do you measure it? How can we be sure? What data you collected and analyze to give you that, or is it how you feel?
You can actually go back to the amount of money you sent last year and compare it to the money you're sending this year, right? You can look at the amount of increase, even though that is
because you have
Dennis,
people got from you last year than this year, right?
No,
Dennis,
let me just end.
And then Dr.
When you go to your, for me, I use Western Union, I use MoneyGram, I use TapTap, I use Send. You have an annual statement of your sin If you want to look it up, you can know that you have an annual statement. Now, I measure how much I sent to Liberia maybe in 2023 compared to how much I sent to Liberia in 2024. I can see the difference. That's how I know how much I'm spending, what I'm overspending.
Last year I was building my house. This year I'm not building. You know,
then is your measure will not be the same. Yeah, then is your measure, my measure will not be the same. When I'm speaking to assistance people, I'm not counting the money I spent to build my house. I'm counting the level of assistance to the individual who asked me for help. Right. So what I'm saying to you, I'm not. I can't speak for any other Liberian on the live right now. But if anyone can tap in here, we support the fact that the level of assistance being requested now in the past couple of years is higher than what it was under the CDC administration, and that I know because I have my own money and I can account for that.
And how is that relevant?
It's relevant because, for instance, how much job are we creating?
Did people master getting money from?
Yeah, let me answer. Let me answer that. Dennis. How much job is being created in Liberia? The more jobs that is being created in Liberia will reduce the level of reliance on outside assistance from family members.
Maybe
right?
No.
So, say for instance, I got.
Maybe that's not the case.
Dennis, it's a fact.
No.
Dennis, but let me land. Then you can come back.
Because we're discussing data here.
Then let me land. You can make your point. For me right now, I have brothers and sisters and I have church, I have schools and everything like that, right? So the more jobs people are having Liberia and can afford, the less reliant they will be on me outside of Liberia. That's what I'm saying. It's just simple. It's just simple economics.
No, I'm saying that could not be. Sometimes that's not true, right? It could also mean people are no longer interested in the dignity of labor. It could also mean people are getting lazier. It could also mean people have become more sophisticated in getting money from the United States than working themselves. It also means
I will land on this one. This one up in racing. Now, what you are saying is cannot be the case. It's simple. If you were showing me increasing numbers of jobs created in Liberia, and the reliance on me is not reducing, then I can see the correlation in there. But you cannot tell me, Dennis.
Let's use the increase in job numbers than what people do personally. Maybe people now they're getting plenty of girlfriends than they used to be. Maybe they're so bold now they think sex that's fun.
Oh no, then you're making the conversation trivia, right? You're making the conversation trivia.
No, it's not trivia.
Yeah, you're making the conversation trivia. Because you're making the trivia because let me say this, right? So take for instance, if you have like the Carter is on the show here, if Carter an economist tells me that there's an increase, like in the MCC scorecard, if there's an increase in access to credit, which to fill in the MCC scorecard, if there's increase in access to credit, it means that more people have opportunity to improve their businesses and to improve their income.
Right.
When the people improve their business, improve their income, the man who has improved income will be an assistance to me to family members who don't have a job. If we have kids coming out of universities in Liberia, whether LU, AMU, UMU, and they have access to jobs, obviously they have access to income. Once they have access to income, they will start to help other family members who may have been helping instead of them when they didn't have a job. So that's how you look at and know that Liberia is progressing. Those indicators are not there to be seen.
Thank you. And Dr. William, you come in. What I'm saying, the access to credit, those are measures that you can measure. But someone getting and say, "Oh, Uncle Daniel, please send me money," and based on that, some people even the more they have, the more they want. But
Dennis, even the way the people make those determination, the methodology is off. It's off. It's not through application like you and I are going to. It's just the number of branches within the country. That's it. That's their access. It's not like you physically going to apply. Anyway, Dr. William, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and we got to move on quickly. So, Dr. William, let me ask you my last question here now. how does the CDC UP rivalry shape voter expectation and limit political imagination? Because because of that comparison, we are just CDC UP.
They're creating a duopoly, right?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
binary choice.
So, Dennis, first of all, let's go back because I think we're losing track of the initial question you asked.
Yeah.
And the source of that question, Samuel Twe.
Right.
So a lot of the comments we're making today, or at least at this stage of the conversation, is pitted against the comment made by the question asked, or the statement made by Mr. Twe. Is Liberia better now than it was, presumably under their administration? And the support that I'm giving to this current administration is yes, it is better. Now, there's my expectation of this government in terms of what my projections are. This government hasn't met them. This government hasn't met them. But are things better off than it was before? And I give you various sectors, whether it's energy, infrastructure. There's been improvement. Whether it was started by Weah and whatever Weah was able to achieve was started by Ellen, it is still an improvement over what he did during his time. So that's fundamental. We can't argue about that. The areas of education and health, there's still, like you talk about data, the absence of adequate data, yes, but there are also micro-level indicators to support whether or not these sectors are doing a little better, But we talked about baseline, all right? The arrest agenda becomes the baseline of the Buckeye administration. That's the baseline. And it is on us to measure their performance based on what they've set aside and projected to achieve. Have they been able to do it to a realistic and not really? Because when you look at this, the 2026 budget that has just been put out, does the budget align with the projections in the arrest agenda? I say no. Fundamentally no. Because the allocation to agriculture, the allocation to education, the allocation to job creation is found wanting. But, gentlemen, economically, is there a level of stability in the country? Yes. Yes, it is. Dr. Pearson mentions the whole idea of comparing and using the indicator of the number of people requesting assistance has gone up as far as he's concerned. And because that number has gone up, that's telling on the economy, which speaks to the fact that we do not understand that the economy and the performance of the economy is based and influenced by several factors. Some very remote, some very immediate.
Dr. William, let's look at the big picture, right? I know we can kind of nitpick things here and there, but is this comparison helpful? Is it necessary?
Not. It is not. That's the point.
Well, Dennis, I would not outrightly say no. That is not helpful. It is helpful. It is helpful because we're able to measure where we're coming from and where we're going. Now, should we think futuristic? Yes.
No, but how do you measure that? The measurement should be, why aren't we measuring, let's measure GDP, let's measure this, let's measure cost of, but why is it that when we measure, we're always thinking this administration and that administration, right?
No, because those of us who are part of the conversation are limited in terms of the data that's needed to discuss GDP. But we do have GDP data out every year.
I'm using that as an example, right? Because we are hyper-focused, even when you are saying the truth, we are hyper-focused on this administration, that administration. So, and in a polarized society like ours, if I'm supporting CDC, all I want to hear is we are better, Buckeye bad. If I'm the opposite, so why aren't we looking at facts. We're looking at data. We're looking at indicators to measure, right? Instead of just comparing administration and putting us in this binary choice kind of scenario. So I believe
But
it's not helpful. It's just a
Dennis,
lazy
Dennis,
way of looking at things.
it is, and you're right. But here is the dilemma we are in. You have a population, and I shared this data with Dr. Pearson. A population of 75% of our current population were born 1990. This is a population that knows very little about the use of data, and the importance of employing data in decision making. Because if they were, and I'm saying 75%, that number could even go up. Because even the elderly ones,
with all due respect, it's two are doing this now. If people like Dr. Pearson who making this kind of comparison, it's not the 1990 people you're talking about.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, people will use whatever mechanism to spew influences based on the ignorance of the majority of the population. For example, our GDP is projected to go 5.3. Yeah, but 5.3% for 2025, up from 4.8 from 2024 and 4.6 from 2023. That's data. But how many Liberians would you go to in Farmer or Greenville and go tell them about GDP? You didn't understand what that means? No, they do not. You'll be wasting your time. Wasting your time. So people want data that they can.
We have a lot to discuss tonight.
Yeah.
Just quick interjection. Just one 15 seconds interjection. Now, Carter here is an economist who will tell you GDP is not the best measure. GDP is not the best measure of the standard of living of any people. GDP projection tells you the trend of the economy. That's true. But the best measure of the strength of your people's livelihood is their purchasing power. It's the availability of jobs. Are they able to afford the daily meal?
Instead of comparing we are Bwaka, that's all I'm saying.
But you don't want talking about we are Bwaka yet. All none of us are mentioned we are Bwaka yet. we are telling you.
Let me make another.
We are telling you over the past couple of years, we are seeing an increased number of jobs being reported. We are not seeing the proportion of graduates from colleges as per those who be absorbed into the economy. We don't see increasing access to credit. We are not seeing any substantial change in the healthcare, for example, in the quality of education, even the educational environment. I'm one of those who complete every single day that University of Liberia is dilapidated. We are still instructing our kids using chalkboards in the 21st century. We're talking about having 10,000 children getting IT, and there's no IT hub for 10,000 children to exercise that skill. So what has improved?
Dr. Pearson.
Thank you.
Dr. Pearson, holistically, all that you name is true. But holistically, are we worse off today than we were yesterday?
I would say we're flatline. There's equally so. I think. Let me make a quick point here.
Flatline means we're not worse off.
Let me make a quick point here, and I think this is some of the things we get confused. The composition of the growth matters more than the growth rate. Meaning, where are we growing compared to? You can say, oh, we grew from 4.8, we're expected to go 5.3, but the composition of where that growth is happening matters more. One of the things we leave out of this whole discussion is basically the economy in Liberia only works for people like you and myself, right? People that work in government, not even forget the civil servant, just the very few, maybe 10% at the top. That's it. Every revenue we're collecting, all of that is circulating right at the top, right? And you alluded to the budget. Go look in the budget and it will give you the perfect picture, right? So where the growth, the composition of the growth matters more than say, oh, we grew by this percent, we grew by this percent, but who is benefiting? How we look at China, we denigrate China, US denigrate China, But look how China was able to take people out of poverty, 700 million people out of poverty. So now they are becoming the second bigger economy in the world, en route to becoming the number one, right? That is the things we need to focus on. Not how much budget we collected, how much GDP our economy grew by. Because if you and I are the only people benefiting from it, but the moment you step out of your house, you go Greenville, Grand Cayman, you see people living in abject poverty. All of that means nothing at all. It means nothing. All of a sudden, what we're doing, we're just articulating political talking points that those who are benefiting from this thing can perpetuate and continue to keep the country where it is. So we need to focus on the composition of the growth instead of just the growth number. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's turn our attention to FOIA, where the president has gone to spend the holiday. FOIA has been used in Liberia. They say, oh, if you can play that in FOIA. Now we have FOIA in the news. So a lot of things happen in FOIA. In FOIA, first of all, the president is having his holiday. In FOIA, he was able to tour the controversial villa. In FOIA, we saw T5, calling himself the independent free thinker supporting Boakai, making some noise. When we saw T5 during the We Are campaign, when he talked about We Are, how We Are lifted him, he's using the same rhetoric now on President Boakai. So, and he himself came out and said, oh, you were calling me T5, now you're calling me T5. So a lot of things to chew on there. Also, we saw Speaker Rachel Kumo, how he danced in FOIA. This is after his national tour, and you see that a lot of his colleagues, they are also trying to get him out. So there's a lot of things. Dr. Pearson, let me start with you. The president is in FOIA, and he's touring the, let's start with this presidential villa.
The MRU.
The MRU Center for Development and all the president is struggled. There was a deep interview at the national radio station in Monrovia concerning this villa, where the president admitted, oh, I didn't know about it, now I know, and all that. Let me get your take on this villa, and the president going there, touring the villa, is that make it now like the official government project. Well, what's your take on the presidential villa or the Mano River Center for Development and maybe conflict resolution, if I may add?
Look, Dennis. Thank you, Dennis. It is like we're playing governance rather than governing, right? When you have a president of the republic comes up on national radio and tell the Liberian people on the state radio that almost $6 million, more than $6 billion, up to between people debating between $6 to $10 million was used to spend on a project in the country he didn't know about, that is not even captured in the national budget. If he doesn't know about the project from the inception of it, it is not captured in the national budget. Then does he know who built it? Does he even know how it was outsourced for someone to take such a contract? How can he be there at this time celebrating it when he said he didn't know anything about it? Another thing we want to stress here is that we are not in an unfamiliar territory, right? We had this same situation with the Yellow Machine saga. And let us not forget, the Yellow Machine saga was estimated at around $80 million, somewhere around $80 million, right? Only for us to blow alarm and come back and make noise for it to come down to 22 million, meaning somewhere around 60 million would have been squandered or stolen from the country or indebted. The country would have been indebted by another $60 million. Maybe we would have done it by credit, like we did with the current stuff that has to do with the Yellow Machine. We took it from one of the local banks, the money from the local banks. That's what I would say to this project, Dennis. I think it's embarrassing when the president's entire cabinet could not even give us an answer for over 4 months and can now come up, the president can now come and go and tour something that had a conflicting, explanation as to what was being done there. It's embarrassing. That's why I would say to President Boyka, what happened to the OU village? Right? What happened to the OU center? What happened to that building? What happened to that property? That property has been underdeveloped without any form of renovation since the civil crisis. The OU village is an ideal location right within an accessible location in Liberia. Why haven't we renovated that property with $6 million? Right? How long will government officials drive to go down to such a program, to such a property that they will have high-level meetings? What just challenge and cost to the country every time the president and his officials go away for meeting when they could have done the OU village, right? Which is the conference center, the OU conference center that is lying in ruins. So I don't understand. I think this is dereliction of duty. I think this is shredded in corruption. All right, to the very core of it, and someone needs to answer for this.
Thank you, Dr. William. What do you make of this president? No, let me call the real name, the Mano River Peace and Development Center.
Dennis, I think in all fairness, this is one of the worst PR examples this government has had. And I just brought on.
You think the issue is PR?
I think it's not just PR. I'm still, just initially the worst PR this government has had. Transparency and accountability, corruption. I will add that in. This is a classic example of what I fail to see how this government and this president could have come up in this day and time after almost 4 months when his officials couldn't clearly state what this project was all about, will come up and say, one, he didn't know about it. So who initiated it? Who has the power to initiate a project of this size without the president's approval in the name of the government? So that's one. Two, at the end of the day, who owns it? Who owns it? And who was reprimanded for taking the lead in a project of this nature? Who authorized the funding of this project? And how was that funding sourced and supplied? And so it has left so many unanswered questions, but it makes the government, as far as public relations, its fight against corruption, transparency, and accountability, this project does not speak well of the government. And
so as of today, what is your understanding of the purpose of this project?
I have no idea. I have no purpose. I think it's a personal property for someone to go and relax after maybe the end of his tenure. Because one, I do not see a conference center. I do not see a training facility. And Dr. Pearson is right. We already have facilities that are in ruins. Why aren't we investing in those and then move on to create new ones? Why are we creating new ones in the face of the ones in front of us that are ruined? The unit of conference center is there. Why didn't we fix it? Why couldn't $6 million done something to it? And so it speaks again to priority. It speaks to the subterranean nature of a lot of the governments we put in place and the way they go about things. Now, I am one of those who believe that at the end of every tenure of a president, yes, they should have somewhere to go. Just like we have presidential libraries and stuff around here in the US and other places. Yes, every president, when I saw the inauguration of where President Boyka taking his oath of office and President we are leaving, I had wished that there would be an official program to see President Weah arrive at his residence, and President Boyka moving into his new residence like we see it here. Since we like to replicate a lot of the stuff that we see here in the US, it's a decent program. It adds to facilitating the transition, smooth transition, but to under hues of attempting to lead a fight on corruption. And then overnight, we hear about millions of dollars being placed in a project in FOIA, and no government official has a clear understanding. So if the president initially said he had no idea, but today he's touring this very facility.
So let's listen to the president
It's
responding
confusing.
to. Let's listen to the president responding to that question.
Yeah, it leaves more questions than answers.
A retirement home built for me by public. I'm going to, God willing, retire maybe in 4 years. I have a house there. Samaritan Purse was using it for years. I'm going to rebuild the house for retirement. I've never taken government money for any personal use. But let's understand, Liberia is the oldest country maybe in Africa. For the republic, Liberia must now position itself in the sub-region, the Mano River Union, for example. You know Australia, you know Guinea, you know Liberia, of course Cote d'Ivoire. We are now almost positioning ourselves as the peacemakers. Today, Sierra Leone is kind of problem like all countries do. They have the younger problem. With Guinea, that problem been lingering for years. We have been involved. You saw Ellen Johnson Sirleaf cross the river. I educated her on Yenga. There's a potential conflict between Guinea and Sierra Leone. Besides that, Guinea is a military country. They are trying, I think on the 28th of this month, they'll be having their election.
You already got the drift, right?
Yeah.
We want to position ourselves so that when the other people have problems, we can call them to meeting in FOIA.
Dennis, I will go back. I will piggyback on the previous conversation we were having in terms of why these are some of the reasons I believe the country isn't better off than it was under the previous administration. The only difference is the level of corruption under the Weah administration was blatant, in your face. They didn't hide it. It's right there. They didn't sugarcoat anything, right? And they were emboldened by it. With this administration, they try to be sophisticated, to make it seem as if these are 12th graders or even 5-year-olds you're talking to, right? If hypothetically they claim this project was a Mano River funded project, don't you think there should have been some communication articles within from any of the Mano River countries talking about this in terms of not just where it was going to be built, why it's being built, and the source of the funding, right? There should have been any, but you can go to Sierra Leone, go to any of the Mano River countries' website or article. There is not communication on that. That's one point. The other point here is that sometimes I feel, and this is no offense to us as a people, but I feel like we are a group of mediocre people, right? Meaning we don't expect much of ourselves at all. Why do I say that? You just showed the building that we're talking about. Is this something that's supposed to be hosting delegates from high-level countries such as the MRU? Or does that look like a poultry farm to you? The only thing good about that place is the landscaping in place. But the building, it looks like if you ever travel in rural America, just how the houses look in rural America, right? That's one thing. The other part on here is the level of corruption, meaning this came up, the president claimed that it was funded by the MRU. no communication whatsoever. What do you think the legislation is supposed to do immediately? Don't you think they're supposed to start some kind of inquiry in terms of trying to understand where we got the funding from? That should have been the first thing in our country. If not, some investigative journalists supposed to start digging into that to find answers. But everybody is mute. And when he will ask the question, he sidestep it. Instead of answering the question, he start talking about the conflict in those areas. Why would people trust Liberia to spearhead peace when we have a war crime court that hasn't been built? We have not reconciled ourselves as a country. But you think the MRU will trust you as a nation to say, okay, this is a country we trust to spearhead peaceful initiative. You have not reconciled within yourself, right? So the evidence is there. We can sidestep it, we can politicize it all we want. This is not an MRU project. I have a lot of inside information on this project and who is behind it, the company behind it, the individual behind it. This is just a precursor to another project that they want to do close to the capital, right? But this is just to test the public reaction, how we're going to react. And from what we've seen or indication, there hasn't been a lot of reaction. There hasn't been a lot of inquiry. It's going to, as we normally do, we make noise about it and it fades away, just like the yellow machine and all of that. But this is the level of corruption that I talk about. WIA was all in your face. They never hide it from you. This administration, at least they try to be sophisticated, but they're horrible at it. They're horrible at stealing. That's all I can say to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Still talking about FOIA. Did you see Speaker Kuhn dancing? Clarence, did you see that?
With his new spouse?
No, he was dancing in front of President Boakai.
Okay, Dennis. No, I did not. And let me tell you why I'm not interested. I'm disinterested in this entire thing. My friend and brother Gabriel said, I wish I would be discussing LACC going there and going find out where did the money come from. Probably how was this project outsourced to whoever is building it? Is the PPCC in accordance with this whole deal that was given to whoever is constructing this property? Right? Why should I be discussing a bunch of individuals who are keeping the country in poverty and exploiting the nation in controlled poverty, controlled stealing in the national budget, allocate monies for themselves, and the very monies that are supposed to be developed in the country is not there to be seen, and then they come outside of the budget, make huge expenditure, enrich themselves, go back there and have fanfare. And we're supposed to be discussing them. I don't even want to discuss that. This is embarrassing to me. Very embarrassing to me. And for a president who said he didn't know about the project from the onset of it to be there and endorsing it, it's like a parent who say, I don't know where my children took the chicken from, but then send the cookie, we all get in the kitchen and start eating. Like, what sense does that make? Is it my neighbor's chicken? Was it stolen from my neighbor? Where did the chicken come from? When we were little in Liberia, we go steal chicken, we cook it in the bush. Nobody brought it in time. We do our country cook in the bush. We eat, we wipe our mouth, we can't in time. But President Boakai, then they're so brave, they steal a chicken, kill it in the bush, and go there in the bush and call party, and everybody can see them dancing with the stolen chicken. This is unfair to the Liberian people.
Finally, the chicken roll confess.
This is totally unfair to the Liberian people. So, talking about Speaker Kuhn, few headlines here. Speaker Kuhn was on an ambitious, ongoing 15-county engagement tour with particular focus on southeastern region. In Maryland, he received massive public reception with citizens lining the streets and chanting support. He held a traditional Harper Palava Health engagement with Chief, welcomed him with customary Maryland Cola nut ceremony. Speaker Kuhn made significant pledges, including 50 scholarships for Maryland Vocational School, and on and on and on. Also, the New Dawn has reported that at least 22 lawmakers met at the Police Academy area in Painesville and are preparing a comprehensive multi-count resolution targeting Speaker Richard Coon and Deputy Speaker Thomas Fowler. The resolution cites alleged lack of accountability, poor leadership, marginalization of members, usurping committee functions, and financial malpractices. Front page, Africa separately reports on organized bloc known as the Reformist Movement, threatening comprehensive leadership removal with coordinated pressure tactics. I mean, we watched this movie before. Speaker Coon, who just completed his Southeastern tour with, I don't even want to mention the spouse business because this is just too much in Liberian politics. Dr. Willie, let's talk about Speaker Coon for a minute. The Southeastern tour, and he was there. I'm here because I'm going to come back 2029 so that you will vote for me. This is a quid pro quo. We saw you in the video dancing, and there are reports that they are planning to remove him.
Dennis, the signs have been on the wall for a while. As a matter of fact, from the day he took the seat and got elected as Speaker, after the controversy at the Capitol, it was just a matter of time. I mean, whether it goes through or not, there's every indication that Speaker Coon will not have a smooth ride over his time. Whether he stays there till 2029, his ride as Speaker will not be smooth. And you see that every day when you monitor activities in the House of Representatives. There is commotion. There's a lack of order in proceedings in the House of Representatives. And recent distractions in the news isn't helping at all. It's simply worsening impressions about his leadership. I think as a nation, as a people, again, we deserve more than we give ourselves, and we need to do better. We need to do better. Part of that also comes with how our leaders at the very top, conduct and comport themselves. Some of what we're hearing, and I don't wish to speak to it specifically, but some of the things we're hearing specifically should not come from leaders, especially at the top. Especially. I mean, it seemed like we've forgotten our role as models for generations that are coming. And so we've positioned ourselves in ways that could further deepen the already social crisis that we have. We have a generation that lacks values. The ways we were brought up in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s, those values are gone. Today we celebrate corruption. We celebrate, those things that vices that ordinarily, I wouldn't at this stage even smoke in front of my mom. I'm 57. There's just certain things I wouldn't do in front of my mom, certain words I wouldn't use at my age. It's not the same anymore. It's not the same anymore. We have leaders today who I mean, I saw the picture of them dancing just now. Yeah, we all can celebrate, but even as leaders, there's a way there's a limit to what we can and cannot do. And it will seem, the transformation we wish, the changes we hope to see, we can give our best shot, and we ought to give our best shot. But this is way below where we should be as a nation and as a people, and that's what I like to say to that.
Thank you, Gabriel. Let me throw Thomas Fowler in the mix, and we see the metamorphosis, from this side to this side. So it's like with all this, I want to bring Thomas Fowler in and see how political alignment can trump everything. So no matter what you do, as long as you are, first of all, what drives these people to before the war, someone reported a politician say, seek ye first the presidency, and everything else shall be added unto you. So if somebody people don't want to be audited, just align with the ruling party, right? So
Right.
the way, and sometimes when they are dancing, it's like you are tempting people, right? In a place that people are hungry, there's not much, and maybe people hear that yesterday you stole 1 million, and the next day you are tempting them. But to what extent does the presidency give these kind of people cover?
Dennis, I'll go back to something you often say on this platform, which is the, the allocation of power that the amount of power we allocated to the presidency, right? Meaning you're pretty much, in a position of authority where you can do anything and nobody will question you, literally. Hence, the FOIA project we're talking about, nobody is even questioning about that. The same thing goes with these individual. There are two faults, right? The one that I want to talk about first is basically the state of our economy, right? Meaning we're not like any other, thriving country where, let's say, the likes of Ghana or the Ivory Coast, right? Where if you leave politics, there are think tanks you can go apply your trade in. There are private companies that can take you in, that can absorb you, right? Where you don't have to worry about, if I leave government, there is no place else for me to go besides to right back to government, right? So there are options, right, for these countries. In our case, we do not have. I'll continue to say this: we don't have a private sector. Forget besides the government, there is no other place that can absorb people like ex-politician or whatever. So if you get into that, God bless you, you become superintendent of Sano, right? You will by default, understanding that very fundamental dynamics, right? You will want to align yourself to the ruling party, even if you were associated with, let's say, MDR, right? When you became a uh, uh, superintendent, because you are now as a superintendent, whoever else get elected, you will literally switch side to the ruling party. Because why? You want to remain as a superintendent. You have to align yourself politically to remain a superintendent. Meaning your assessment as a superintendent is not based on how you perform anymore. It's based on your alliance to the ruling party. So we're not looking at Dennis because Dennis is a great superintendent anymore, or he's a horrible. It's because Dennis is affiliated with the ruling party. It's the same thing that is happening in this political sphere that you see. This is why you see the likes of, T5, Thomas Fowler, jumping party to another, right? Before they used to call him T5, meaning this is a guy who steals. Now he's with the ruling party, right? He has to align himself with this political party to feel relevant, right? Hypothetically, let's say if he didn't align himself, let's take that as an example. If he didn't align himself with this ruling party, what do you think would become of him
Be
if he leaves
audited.
power?
Will be
Nothing.
audited, perhaps.
Look at perfect example. The former Minister of Finance. Where is he today? What is he doing? So can somebody tell me what is he doing? Is he teaching at any university in Liberia that's able to pay him equally what he was making as a Minister of Finance, or even half? No. Is he in some kind of think tank? No. Is he in the US or anywhere? Because I would say this, and people think the in government is where people go to become mediocre. You lose your skill set. So when you come out of there, you're literally wasted maybe 5, 6 years of your time that you've lost all your skills and you become irrelevant. So by default, what it does, you have to go right back to that place. And in order to get there, you have to, proverbially kiss the ring of the ruling party. So this is why you see the fundamental thing is the economy. That's what drives it. People look at that. There's nowhere to go. So you have to align yourself with the ruling party. So um, I'll leave it on that, but I think that's as much as I can say on that. Thank you.
Dr. Pearson, this Fala and Kuhn, and nothing against the people, but there's a pattern. And let's look in the future. What does this say about the trend of our political engagement or alignment with the power that be? Let's say the next government that is coming, being it a UP, a LPP, UPP government, or if worst case scenario, if we continue to have this play by play, CDC, UP, do you see things getting worse when it comes to this kind of behavior, or better?
I think, thank you, Dennis. I think the question will be based on what do they bring to the table to begin with. Say, take T5 for example. T5 did not come to government with any skill set. T5 came to government from the playing field. T5 was selling plane on the freeway, all right, Ghana Bay Highway there. He was selling plank, all right. He came to power on the popularity of George Weah, who was a populist individual, and he ran mistakenly on the ticket of CDC and became a representative. And all of a sudden, he became a millionaire by being in politics. What is the prospect for such an individual leaving from where he finds the green pasture and to go back to selling planks? That's not going to happen. The best I can say is that maybe if he had gone into the House of Representatives and then pursue education and certain basic skills that will make him a viable citizen outside of government, then you can see a prospect for that individual. But that's not just T5 alone. That goes for a lot of individuals in there. A lot of people who serve in government in Liberia are people who, when they leave other government, they were not easy to thrive, except for a few people who go on maybe to work for World Bank or go to work for African Development Bank or other institutions outside of Liberia, But for Liberia does, like our brother just said, Gabriel, Liberia does not have a thriving private sector that will absorb anyone with professional skills that got high earnings, right? So you have to go out there with your new portfolio to go and get a job. I left from Liberia with a master's degree. I came to the United States. I went to work in a factory. Dennis, I worked in the factory for a few days, for a few months rather, and then pursue an education that would make me get a decent job outside of the factory. I became a medical assistant. And I became a electronic medical record health record specialist. And then that took me from out of the warehouse. And then when I got my doctorate degree, I used that now to go and get me the kind of job that I would have gotten based on, if I've been born here and got a master's degree here. But my master's came from LU. Even though I converted it using the international evaluation system to give me a comparable assessment of my credential in America, but I still have to start from the bottom. So you take Thomas Father, whoever else, you take them from out of there and bring them outside. Where are they going to begin from? Pushing cartoons? These guys are used to holding, free money in RLJ Hotel. Where are they going to go take free? Who's going to get them free? Who's going to make them do a budget where they put $35,000 car inside for themselves and put few slip there and put scratch card there? Then which other company work for you that will do that for us? So I think the best answer I can give you, Dennis, we need to improve our education system rather. We need to position our younger generation to a place where they have quality education, quality skills, quality training, so that their reliance is not just on a public job, but on any concessionaires that come to the country can find the skills that they have and that they are looking for among our young people to give them quality jobs, not just manual jobs, but quality jobs. At that level, at that rate, like I said from the beginning of the show, when the job opportunity is improved, when employment goes up, and then people can find decent job and make a decent wage, and the purchasing power is improved, you will not be asking me which is worse then and before. I will be sitting here, will be happy because I will keep my Western Union money, I will keep my MoneyGram money, and I'll keep my Sendwave and Tap money, because I'll be telling my picking up posting in my pocket now. I getting old now, but instead. I'm getting old and I'm still sponsoring and helping other people who are 5 years older than me, which is sad for our country. And T5 I tell you this, take T5 from that position, right? Let Tifa go to LCC and go to court for stealing Liberian poor money. Let him scraping off all the money that he stole from the country, and let Tifa go in the community and go work. Let's see what kind of work he will do.
See, Dennis,
Ladies
quickly,
and
let
gentlemen,
me.
if you're just joining us, this is Friday Night Debate. If you want to be a part of the conversation, call 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Dr. William, your question is, do Liberian politicians believe in principles or do they follow power?
Dennis, the question answers itself. And the T5, and many others like him, the Sir Joseph, our politicians lack convictions. And I will qualify that. We had politicians of the 70s, the ones who called the progressives, the Bacchus Matthews, the Sawyers, the Marcus Don, and Wesley Johnsons, the Boyma Fambula. That generation of Liberian politicians had convictions, and they stayed with it to their graves. They did. Yeah, they did support different leaders as things change, but they retain their identities, their political identities. They retain their. Gabriel Bacchus Matthews supported CDC never as a sedition. He supported CDC as a UPP founder. The Sawyers and everybody else supported others retaining their political alliances. The ones we have today, somebody mentioned, maybe it was on a previous program, but the Botoist approach to politics, where you go where your bread is buttered, that has become prevalent in especially since the war. That has become prevalent. People running between and amongst parties. And it is sad that even the younger generation are doing just about the same thing. People who supported communists yesterday, they're in CDC today. They move from CDC to go to CMC, and soon they're going to be in Unity Party. They're running in between these political parties. There is absolutely nothing wrong with supporting a candidate, but there's everything wrong with running between political parties. Because the decision to jump into a political party has to be made from a position of conviction. And this is why the likes of us, this is why the likes of us, me personally, have joined only one political party, maybe two, Student Unification Party on LU campus and the United People's Party. As a kid, when my late stepfather joined the United People's Party, I joined along with him out of the trust that I had in this man. But I haven't joined any political party ever since. And because for me, joining a political party means I'm going to be in there. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. There is an ideology that I see in the party that I want to go beyond. Our political parties lack ideology. All of these parties, the PAP, the you name them, even the Unity Party has no ideology about where they want to take the country. No ideology. Unity Party cannot distinguish itself from CDC ideologically. And that is sad. And that is sad. And you will hope that in this dispensation, that political parties will begin, while new ones are being erected, that the old ones will begin to study where they are ideologically and begin to create an identity for themselves.
Thank you. And Mr. Ahmed Sharif, if you are listening, Dr. George Y. Williams said the PAP has no political ideology. I want you
There's no ideology. No. There's nothing that separates
why
PAP
do you always like to
from
stuff like
CDC
this?
or Unity Party. What separates them? What separates them?
So I want to mention that because all right, Dr. Pearson, what I've we concluded now. I know we talk about the stories here. I want us to run a thread through there. What does each of these stories, reveal about Liberia's political culture?
Thank you, Dennis. Look, I think what I would say is that it demonstrates the infancy of leadership in Liberia. When I say infancy, I mean we do have people with age, whether in their biological age or in their political age, but the level of leadership and governance expertise that we expect of them to show the kind of results that we need to see in governance is lacking. And so what I would say is that our entire political system has to be overhauled. Like Dr. Williams was saying, we have to have an ideological a form of system that maybe will narrow us down to maybe 2 or 3 political parties that will function with substance with in terms of delivery. We'll not just be talking about what political parties we are aligned with, but we'll be talking about what's strategic about these political parties in terms of ideology and delivery, right? That if we go for this party this year, these are the basic ideological output that we expect to get from them. And then if we switch to another political entity next time, we want to say, oh, these are what we need now, and this other party cannot produce it because of the fundamental ideology. And so we switch the vote. Like you see, the Republican will one day be acceptable to the American people. Another time, the Democrat Party is acceptable to the American people. So we have to have that dichotomy that we can see expressly what will these institutions bring to the table with when Trump is coming to chase people to get out of the country. When he can't chase, then he get out of the country. What are you getting by hook or by crook? To get him out. If Biden comes to the country and says, I want to give people health care, what he get it by hook or by crook, he goes for it. There's something you can rely on them to say, if we give them this thing at this time, this is what we're going to get. Liberia is not that case, Dennis. These guys come with a lot of political rhetoric, some of them baseless, full of lies and diabolical statements of other people, and they come and repeat the very same old thing that they abhor and that they were disgusted about, and sometimes they are even worse than we see right now. So what I think we can change, Dennis, is how can we breed a new generation of young people, a new generation of Liberians who have the civic education, the patriotic upbringing of what the country should look like and what we want for our country, with not a mediocre mindset. Like if you just come and put 10 light poles on a 30-kilometer road, and then which means the country has seen transformation. What has changed with somebody who living maybe that's a 60 or 70 kilometers outside Liberia, Monrovia, I should say, outside Monrovia? What has changed? What has changed in Grand Bassa? What has changed in Sano? What has changed in River G? What has changed in Harper City, Maryland County? What has changed in Grand Chile? Nothing has changed for these people. It's just that small little Monserrato County, Ellen Face, the same RIA road. Joe, we can't beef it up. President Barack can post 3 on it, and then people celebrate these things. Healthcare, what has changed? Education, what has changed? Security of the people, what has changed? We cannot go beyond this without really putting our foot down and wanting the best for our country and stemming out corruption from the very core that we see now in the Barack administration.
Thank you. I mean, I can't help but to draw parallels between what you just said and what Mr. Cummings said. What has changed? Just saying. Gabriel, how can Liberia build institutions that outlast personalities?
That is another brilliant question that I believe, I think it's kind of similar to what we've talked about here earlier, in terms of what Dr. William was saying, of people moving from different party to another. I think the problem is maybe twofold, or maybe there are several reasons why this is happening. We haven't built institutions. One, I think we're joining parties without, we're not joining party based on ideology, meaning, perfect example, right? I associate with the ANC, right? And the reason why I do is because of the ideology that Mr. Cumming put forward, meaning he wants to build a country where every Liberian can thrive, right? Meaning if you go to school, you get out of school, you put your head down to work, there will be opportunities there for you. Meaning there will be an economy where if you come out of school, the people will be incentivized to go to school because if you come out of school, there's a workforce that will absorb you, right? Not only is a workforce there to absorb you, but there will be an economy that if you can work hard, you will benefit from it, just like what you and I do here in the United States. Fundamentally, that is the ideology that I identify with. That is the reason why I'm associated with the ANC, Mr. Cummings, right? I support Mr. Cummings. Perfect. Is that the case for everybody else? No. Not too long ago, probably last year, what's his name? Louis Brown. We tired suffering, right? You remember that conversation? We tired suffering. In less than few months, he was on you were on the United Party train, right? We talk about T5 here. We talk about what's the other guy's name? The lawyer, who's the centrist guy, who went from CDC to who went
Camille
from
Bala.
right. He went from CPP to CDC. Now he's dragging himself to the Unity Party. Now the question becomes, why is it? What's the problem? Why do people do that? And again, it goes back to what I said, ideology, right? We're not building parties that are based on ideology, right? We've been building
So how can we do
based
that?
we've been building party based on individual, right? This is why the Unity Party isn't as strong as it used to be because it was basically built off of Ellen when she left. Barca came over. CDC is the same thing, right? So here's what I think here's how I what I think we can how I think we can actually build parties that are fundamentally built on institution. And this is something I haven't seen in any political party, not even the ANC, right? Because we're building party based on individual. Let's say you are the chair of the party, right? What do you call it? The political leader, right? Your role is not only to ascend to the presidency, but your role should be able to operationalize, right? One, and also standardize the party, right? Meaning the way you do things, the way you elect people all across the board, your constitution, you operationalize that and you standardize that. One. The second part here is basically for you to groom people, leaders, right? That will assume. That means while you are en route to becoming the leader of the party, you identify people, maybe one or two or three people. You said these people have the characteristic, the drive that if I leave or when I leave to ascend to the party, the head of the party, to lead this party. We do not do that. We do not mentor, we do not groom people to take over. You don't see that in any of the parties, right? So to build an institution, you have to build systems, right? The system are able to perpetuate whatever ideology you leave in place, you want to leave in place, right? But most parties in Liberia, maybe all of them, they lack ideology, one, and they also lack the ability to, to develop new leaders as well, and they're not formulated on ideology. So that is the fundamental problem there. And I think if any party focuses on that, they will be able to build an institution that, outlasts maybe 3, 4, 5, or more presidency.
Thank you. I was, studying that particular phenomenon, and I said, well, maybe because deep in the interior, because some of where we were born and raised, just to let you know, I was born in a village behind the house on plantain leaf. I crossed 4 creeks every morning to get to the nearest town for school. In those areas, you never see an ex-chief, you never see an ex-bodio, you never see an ex-bone specialist,
Yeah,
you never see an ex-drummer, right? Those jobs are like from God and they are forever, right? Maybe we Africans, Liberia, maybe we have to develop our own form of democracy. That's why people stay forever. Why President Bouakai is there or even alive, you can't grow anybody, maybe, but that's another thing. Uh, I have a question for you, Dr. Williams. And my question is, what reforms will help shift Liberia from personality politics to political politics?
So, Dennis, part of my work history has been working with political parties, and like the conversation has just highlighted, political parties in the country they're more personality driven than policy and programs related, and fundamentally is that what can happen for political parties to strengthen internal structures and its democracy is to shift from the personality driven posture to a more programmatic policy posture. Gabriel just spoke to one of the reasons why he was with ANC is because Mr. Cummins has this ideology. It wasn't the ANC got the ideologies. Mr. Cummins. So if Mr. Cummins got out of the picture, Gabriel started rethinking where to go next to find who got the ideology. And that's precisely the point that's pervasive across our political landscape. So the ways to move beyond that is that even for the smallest party, to find find advocacy around one issue that they can pursue. One issue. You ask our parties today, what is that one issue they'll like to pursue and that they have expertise for? You won't find it. And then secondly, most of our parties, people join these parties with the hope of running into government as soon as the party wins elections. Now, to the credit of CDC, their chairman at the time, Moba Molu, was never a public government official. He was never a public official. Never. And that's remarkable. It's a shame that the Unity Party, against that experience, will have its chairman of the party on the board, the secretary general of the party running LPRC. At this stage, who's running the party? How is the party being built?
And they can't leave their job.
Exactly.
Well, let's wrap it up.
You cannot run LPRC, you cannot run the National Port Authority and run a party. It's the same thing when it comes to football. Current presidents of football clubs are the ones on the executive committee attempting to run football on a daily basis. It will not work. Party officials should stay party officials. They should strengthen internal institutions. And that's a fundamental problem. You talk to all these parties today, they cannot identify one major issue that they have expertise for. When you think about CDC, what is that one thing that CDC is known for? ANC, UP, UPP, and all the CMC. What is that one thing? You can tie them to any one issue. And that's fundamental. And until we make that shift, our parties are going to go nowhere. Now, can the Elections Commission help this process? Yes. The elections, depending on the kinds of programs the Elections Commission put in and the regulations they put in, a lot of the parties, could facilitate the shrinking. A lot of these parties and reducing the over bloating of the electoral ballot that will result in what I call the Appleton phenomena that we experience. And if you don't know what the Appleton phenomenon is when one candidate who happens to be on the ballot miraculously overperform more active participants on the ballot. That's the Appleton phenomenon. And that has to be studied. And for my study, it's a direct result of the overbloated ballot, where our under-educated electorates find it difficult to navigate almost 20 candidates on a ballot paper. So the fatigue from standing on the line long hours, You get your ballot paper, you just check anyone, and you move on. And you move on. But so there are lots to improve. It's not just with the political parties, it's also with the structures that govern political party politics in the country as well. And so there's a lot to be done. The transformation we want to see has to be holistic. We can't cherry pick how we engage the change. It has to be holistic. But to have a more holistic view, people have to sit down. It has to be more consultative than isolated.
Dr. Pearson, I can see something on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, Dennis, there is. You know, I want to say this. Look, let us invest in education. Let us invest in education. Let us put technology at the top of our educational system in the country and transform our youth and our young people future. Dennis, if it's left with I alone, the president will sell his 4 bulletproof vehicle, the 2 Toyota and the 2 Lexus, and he will digitize all of our classroom, public and private, in the country. However minimum the standard that will be in terms of maybe access to internet service and access to computers for the different libraries across public school and private schools, or maybe centralized libraries and laboratories in different communities, maybe in all of the different political districts. Just put a centralized public library with computers and laboratory for science, for the children for science. Build AI hubs around the country. Go to the villages instead of building a fake MRU project that MRU said they got no knowledge of. So take the people from that touch and mud huts and build low housing homes for people. Let them pay back to the government with overtime and let that money recycle with the same home across different geopolitical areas in our country. Take the people out of poverty. You know, no nation is going to thrive with 90% of its population in poverty. No nation is going to improve. You know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, talking about education, Focus on Liberia, we embark on a series. We call that the Education We Deserve podcast series. We have. I want to play you just one episode 1. We call it, and take a listen. Okay.
Nation great. Have you ever wondered what truly makes a nation great? Is it its army, its economy, or its natural resources? While all those things are important, I believe the real answer is something much more fundamental, and that's education. Think about it. Education isn't just about getting a degree or a good job. It's a generational investment, a promise we make to the future. It's the bedrock upon which thriving societies are built. When we invest in teaching our children critical thinking, empathy, and history, we are planting seeds that will grow into a forest of innovation, understanding, and progress. We're not just filling minds with facts. We're shaping the character of the next generation of leaders, creators, and citizens. The knowledge and values we pass down today directly determine the kind of world our children will inherit and build tomorrow. On the other hand, what happens when a society neglects its youth? What happens when education is underfunded, inaccessible, or worse, used to teach division and ignorance? The consequences can be devastating. A society that fails to educate its people is a society that is setting itself up for decline. Ignorance breeds fear, and fear leads to conflict and stagnation. There's a powerful African proverb that says, "The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth." This isn't about a literal fire. It's a profound metaphor for the consequences of neglect. When children feel unseen, unheard, and uneducated, they become disconnected from the society that failed to nurture them. Their potential, which could have been a source of light and warmth for the whole community, can curdle into resentment and destruction. They seek recognition, and if they can't find it through positive contribution, they might find it through chaos. This proverb is a stark reminder of our collective responsibility. Every child deserves to be embraced by the village, to be given the tools of knowledge and the warmth of belonging. By investing in education, we are not just preventing a fire. We are building a future where every single person has the chance to shine their brightest. We are building a nation that is strong, resilient, and destined for greatness, not by chance, but by choice. What do you think is the most crucial subject we should be teaching the next generation? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.
Dr. William, did you cry during the presentation?
I did. The only thing I don't like about it is the Siri on your tongue, but the message is clear, the vision is direct. That's the way to go. That's the way to change our country. That's the way to entrench the next generation with enlightenment. To enlighten the next generation of leaders in our country is through education. And I totally agree with that, Dr. Pearson. A bulk of our investment ought to be in education.
Right.
And
if you want to go on focus on YouTube or Facebook page, so you can get the entire episode. Somebody say, hey, that AI, somebody was driving, right? When you're using your GPS and the AI say in the GPS say go left or go, do you say, oh no, that AI I'm not going? When you call the voice you hear on the voice mail, it say leave a message. You say
exactly.
No, AI told it to me, I'm not leaving a message. So the AI enhance the voice because that's the tool we're using. That presentation in under 3 minutes, so profound, so powerful. How well could I have made that to the world? And we want to go to the world, not just Liberia, so that everybody be able to understand. Because sadly, Dr. Pearson, those videos, since we made them, they don't, I don't want to say nobody, they don't have the likes that the other shows will have. And I leave it as that. Let's wrap it up. Your closing, guys. Start with Gabriel, Dr. Pearson, and Dr. Williams.
Yes, Dennis, again, thank you for having me here. And, to Dr. Pearson, Dr. William, this was a great discussion. I too been away for a while, so it's good to be back here as a refresher to get back in the weeds of things. But nevertheless, I think there were a lot of things we talk about, but there's two points that I would like to hone in on in my closing. One being the FOIA project. You want to call it the MRU Peace and what's the acronym for it again? Peace and Development Center, or whatever you want to call it. It speaks to the broader context of this government, the way they have always been, or what do you call it, MO of how they've been running this government, right? And I think sometimes us in the diaspora or in the opposition, we come out here and talk about these things, but it's no different from the previous administration. As I said earlier, the only difference is that they try to be sophisticated with how they carry out their corruption, but they always backfire. Whether you're looking at the Yellow Machine, the what's that school project that we're trying to do with the lady in Ghana, and now we have this
scholarship
project, right? The scholarship project they were trying to do in Ghana. It always backfires. So the only difference is they try to be a little bit sophisticated, but it's the same level of corruption, and nobody takes accountability. And I don't think there will be any accountability that will come out of this MRU project, because I don't think this is an MRU project. This is a government funded initiative. My second point is basically on the comparison of administration, the way we assess government based on their performance against the other administration. I think it pigeonholes us into really being innovative and thinking about progressive ideas of what a state could be, right? What development should be, you know. And this is something all of us has been a victim of. We pigeonhole ourselves into thinking, okay, the only thing we have to compare this administration to is its previous, its predecessor, right? And that is it, right? And whereas if we look at our peers in the region, in the sub-region, Ivory Coast, Ghana, right? These people, and I mean, they're light years ahead of us, despite Liberia being the oldest democracy on the continent, right? Forget the fact that we fought 14 years of war. We've had time, 23 years, so I've been 22, 23 years since we came out of the war. I will say this quickly and I will shut up. There has not been a president post-war who understand development, who understand the tenets that builds a society and has come to power and have implemented those tenets to say this is what we need to do. Not a single one, not Ellen, not we are, and certainly not this puppet we have in power, right? And this has been our failure as a society. We put people there who will just maintain the status quo, right? I can just go and borrow money and come and do what I need to do, take budget and allocate 90% of it to reoccurring expenditure, but someone who will come in with the way Talbot envisioned Liberia to be an industrial, thriving country that stands on its own and not looking east, not looking west, but that is looking forward. We have not have somebody who understands development that way. Everyone has been basically, someone who comes in to maintain status quo. And I think all of us here, this is how we need to look at things. We need to look at, progressive, look at the unimaginable things that can happen as a country to achieve what we need to get to. It is unfortunate that we're here, but again, the only thing that you and I both have is hope that one day we will have someone who can come in and literally take this country by the horn and drag it where it needs to be economically. Thank you.
Dr. Pearson. Don't go too long like Gabriel.
Thank you, Dennis. Not to go too long like Gabriel, I want to say thanks for the show and thanks to my fellow panelists. Thanks to all of those who are viewing, Sam Wallow and others. Look, Dennis.
Sam Wallow did comment on the 2-minute video. He talking about.
Dennis, let me say this. Look, when our country cannot procure yellow machine within 2 years of wanting to, then we are worse off than we were before in terms of governance. When we are able to remove a certain speaker by violating the constitution of our republic, then we are worse off than we were before. When we have a situation where the president is going to celebrate projected $6 million plus to $10 million project that he didn't know nothing of, instead of investigating it to see where the money came from, who was the project procured to, whether it met the standards and laws of our country, and he's celebrating it, it tells you we are worse off than we were before. When the president have had a number of individuals in his government who has, really disrespected the Supreme Court of Liberia, and promote another branch of government, usurping of that legitimacy of that branch of government, it is worse than we had before. We have lost over 250,000 people, presumably, in our civil crisis because of bad governance. And if we see the same thing happening, it means we are worse than what we were before. But this is what I would say, right? I think President Boyka still has time to recalibrate. And I think he still has time to show the Liberian people that the expectation of the people in reliance for his 40 years experience in government can still come to some benefit to the people. And he has to do right by the people by ensuring that. I would just encourage the government to focus on the economy, focus on education. We would like to know how many jobs being created. We would like to know and see how the purchasing power of our people has improved. We'd like to see healthcare, not just few instruments or equipments being provided, but across the country. We'd like to see low housing projects kick off, not thick projects, but real projects kick off to take our people from mat and thatch houses outside Monrovia and in the various counties. And last but not least, Dennis, look, Liberia is not Monrovia. And it pity me to see people celebrate things happening in the very cycle of Monrovia for the past 20 years and say Liberia has improved. Until outside of Liberia is improved, Liberia is not improved. Thank you, Dennis, for having me tonight.
Thank you. Dr. William, you have one and a half minute.
1.5 minutes. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you all for the conversation. I think it was great. I think very insightful. You know, the president's involvement in what I consider the commemoration of the FOIA project speaks to the government's convictions about corruption and the fight on corruption nationally. I think it's a process found wanting in the leadership of the government and the leadership of President Boakai. I think it's a dismal failure of what has just happened, and I think going forward, a lot more needs to be done in terms of its public relations, communications across government, and the president's own actions in stamping out corruption across the country. The inaction of the LSCC and other financial what we call GAF institutions in investigating how this project came about, or the lack thereof, speaks also to the challenges that we still have governance-wise. So there's a lot as far as the governance of our country is involved. The governance of our country is involved. There's a lot to be done. A lot can be done as we move forward and look forward. It is important that we begin to identify people who are astute, they harbor integrity, and they can help us move forward integriously in rebuilding the country and becoming competitive with our neighbors and the world at large. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks to fellow panelists for their insights. As always, it's been a great conversation, and I thank you, Dennis, for facilitating all of this. My only hope is that we don't overcrowd our agenda. Let's keep it short so that we don't skip and discuss too many things and lose track of the details of it, because part of what we're doing is to educate. When we have
your 1 minute is over. We're going to end on that note, and I encourage you to follow us, subscribe, and be a part of it. Those 2 minute videos are excellent. You can find them anywhere in the world, only here on Focus on Liberia. And Sam, the video education, that's what I wanted you to comment on. Now Boakai talking about giving excuses of something you didn't know. The FOIA project, that thing is shameful. Nobody should put the president in that situation. Oh, I didn't know about it. Now you know. So what are you going to do? Where the money come from? Even if you have money from your pocket, could we use that money to do something else? Could we just clean Benson Street or fix LU? What could we do? It's always the opportunity foregone can be even worse. Yep. So come on, Sam, let's talk here. We all want better for our country, but we can't just be this blind loyalist. Just dancing like they kind of coon dance. Until then, we close with a song that says we are all Liberians. Whether you believe FOIA is the new capital or not, we are all Liberians.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people.